Okay, and welcome everybody to Set the Pipe. We do have a great guest tonight, but let me introduce that is CK and that is Bear, the host of Set the Pipe. Tonight we have Alfee Reft, the UCLA women's head coach. Alfee, welcome to Set the Pipe.
Thanks, Sully. That's man, it sounds a lot cooler coming out of your mouth. That's quite the introduction. I feel pretty special.
So happy to,
Microphone.
yeah, so happy to have you. You're the first women's collegiate coach on Set the Pipe. We've had a few men's coaches from John over at UCLA, and we've had Al Knipe at Long Beach and Nygaard at USC. And just honored to have you, grateful for you to take the time to talk to us about the women's game, about you, about UCLA. As you know, I have a little bit of love for that for a few reasons, but wanted to just say again, thanks for joining and taking the time to talk to us today.
No, I appreciate it, guys. I'm excited to be here, and thanks for having me. It's gonna be some fun.
Yeah, awesome. Well, just sit back and relax like we do, and we go over your profile a little bit. Let everybody know out there who we're talking to today. So, Alfee was named the 4th head coach in the program history of UCLA on December 19th, 2022. Let's go back to his college days. College career started actually as a gaucho at UC Santa Barbara, then transferred to the University of Hawaii as a libero. What a stud. Alfee was named the ABCA first team All-American as well as the A6 Volleyball Magazine Defensive Player of the Year in 2005. Competed in 7 years overseas in clubs in Montenegro, Portugal, and France. And then all of a sudden, kind of got into the coaching gig. So he did actually 12 years with the national team, both as coach and player. And then he was a seasonal assistant coach for the USA women's national team with the silver medal at the Paris Games in 2024. Got into the Big Ten actually as an assistant at the University of Illinois, right up the street from me, and at the University of Minnesota. Then he spent 3 seasons following our old teammate, Brent Hilliard, and he went to San Diego State. So the associated head coach at San Diego, where he led their team to their first national semi-appearance in 2022. From there, he did take over the Bruins, and here we are. Alfee Reft is the UCLA women's head coach. Again, welcome to Set the Pipe. We're really excited to have you on and have a great conversation.
Thanks, Sully.
When you hear all that, Alfie, my question to you, and I've asked a few folks of this, is you're a coach now at UCLA, which is amazing, and we'll talk about that, but all the accolades to go back when you were younger, like we were, when you wanted to be that dream of being a player. I mean, you got to play at the highest level. I mean, you got to play at the collegiate level and compete with the best of the best, play at the national team. Do your players know that you were that good? That's the first question I have. Like, as a player, do they really know how good you were? And when you hear that, being a coach now, do you remember like how fun it was when you used to get to do it yourself?
That's a good question. I don't know, Coley. I don't know if they even know what volleyball was like when I played. I mean, I feel like there's such little, we didn't have social media. There's like little video, and I certainly, I mean, I'm not in the gym like, hey, look at this game from 2005 that I was playing. But no, I mean, we certainly reference where appropriate in the gym. We try to, let them know that, hey, we had some chops at some point, but I can't say that they knew the level we were playing at, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. It is really weird. I don't know. I don't think about like the full timeline kind of
Yeah.
as a whole. So just hearing you say that solely, it's like that's just a trip down memory lane, and you just think of all these like parts of your life that you're like, whoa, like. So to actually hear you read that off is kind of cool. I haven't quite looked at it that way or even read my own timeline in a while. So, yeah, it's kind of, it's humbling. It's a little trippy, honestly, to like hear it all.
Yeah, so look back and see, like, wow, I actually did all that. Like, we had Nygaard on, and he was like, we read all this stuff from Nygaard, and he sat there and he was like, that was someone from the past where I'm at today.
Right.
When you hear stuff like that, you're just like, wow, like, you did all of that. And we of course, we know we did because we played against him, but. And it's like you. I mean, I remember watching you back then when you were in college and when you coming up, and like, it's crazy to see what you've been able to accomplish. And then, which we'll get into your coaching career, because I'm curious when that bell went off in your head. Like, were you playing and like, this is what I want to do? But like, to be able to do all of that as a player and then continue the game is just so cool that you got to do that.
No, I agree. I agree, Coley. And as you talked about like UCSB and just all these stops, I think of the people, like the coaches, like the people that really mentored me and got me there, the teammates, like just there's so many fragments of that journey as a player into coaching. And I think it's absolutely what inspires me to coach now is, like I think everybody in this sport or who's done anything to some degree has always had people who are influential. And so when I hear that, that's what I think of is just like all the faces of people in those fragments of life, which is pretty cool to think about.
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
yeah, a couple things for you, Alfie, is a lot of really good players can't. Not that they don't want to, but they can't make that transition to coaching, right? Because it's more like, this is what I did. I can't tell you how I did it, but this is what I did. So when did you know, like, kind of want to get into this coaching gig? I mean, because you go from, high school, college to overseas to national team mentoring to volunteering, then actually getting into coaching. So when did you go like, hey, I actually can do this. I can coach. So when did that come into your brain and say, yeah, you know what, I can be pretty good at this?
Well, I can remember back to like really early, even like in high school, actually. I just always had a fascination with like picking the game apart or a curiosity for process, actually, and then working with people. And so when I was playing in high school, I was also like always coaching the girls' teams, like just getting my hands in instruction and kind of discovery with that. As I got through college, I think recollecting now back on it, I mean, obviously, like I'm not the most imposing player. I was never big, so I really had to like understand the technicalities of the game in order to kind of match like where the game's going and like every step. It was like, somebody was a little bigger, a little faster, and well, I had to out efficient them or out like strategic them, whatever it was. So like that study of the game, I think, has suited me well with just the coaching aspect of it. But really, when it comes down to it, like I think well through college, I was still coaching like high school girls, even as I was competing. When I got to the national team and started training in Anaheim, I immediately started coaching club volleyball. Like I was just always double dipping, and that was always a thread I knew that was pulling at me, the coaching side of it, and I was kind of cultivating that always as I played, and it was always this back and forth from I'm going to go compete and then I'm going to coach a little bit, and so
Did it help you when you competed? When you were still coaching, did you learn? Did it help you evolve as a player while you were coaching at the same time? Just curious.
1,000%. Yeah, 1,000%, Coley. I was able to like, I mean, just to see, I worked when I was on the national team. I was coaching like 12 and unders. I was coaching the best ins team in the country at the time. I was assistant coaching that was, and so I was just getting to see all these parts of the game and like the maturation of players, not just physically but also mentally, and like the struggles that they were going through. And so, at any level, I think that stuff is pretty parallel. And there was always takeaways from that. And so that was pretty neat, as well as like really dissecting and being in the lab and breaking down skills. Like I could articulate how I wanted someone to pass a ball. The next day I'd go in the gym and be like, okay, like those things kind of pinged off at me, or if it was defense or vision, whatever it was. So it was just this really cool intersection of like the back and forth of like, I'm going to kind of play around, be in the laboratory, and then get in the gym and see if like I can actually do what I just worked on.
Yeah. Yeah. So the second part of that was I wanted to go back to why we even started this Set the Pipe podcast. And it was a couple years ago. It's just, I think our stories get lost. I do. I mean, and for you to sit back and go, gosh, really? Like Coley said, wow, I actually did that. I mean, Nygaard was the same way. He was super professional. And at the end, when we were offline, it was all done. We're like, "Ooh," and he started talking about, yeah, remember back and when I'm like, that's what we need to encapsulate, right? To let you know, you're right in a sweet spot with us, and to telling those stories and to telling, our audience that, shoot, I started coaching when I was in high school and helping out in college. And I wasn't too big as a national team coach to coach a 12-year-olds, to coach an 18-year-olds. And if you saw all three of our heads were nodded up and down when it just makes you a better player if you're coaching. And I encourage any college kids out there that if they to go coach a club at the 12s and the 13s, one, you're going to learn patience, at that level. And you're going to learn, your drills and how to communicate a ton better. Man, that just makes you a better collegiate player, in my humble opinion. So that's what this is all about. And this is going to be a great interview.
I'm gonna really jump really fast forward because I think for me sitting here, listen, you know me, I have a real big passion for UCLA. My wife's an alumni. She played there. She won a national championship. My son hooped there. I'm a big fan. And You just told us a story that you're playing on the national team, you're coaching 12U, you're coaching an assistant coach on the 18s team. You're the UCLA women's collegiate NCAA volleyball coach. What a a leap from coaching 12s when you're living in Anaheim. How cool is that? And how does I mean, do you pinch yourself every day to be the head coach at UCLA?
Yeah, 1,000%, Coley. And I don't, I just driving home today. I mean, there are just moments where, I'm from this area, Ventura County, but I've been around LA, and I mean, there's so many things. Like, I grew up like UCLA was the pinnacle of
Yeah.
volleyball as
During that time, yeah.
in California, at the time. And so I I, I say that because it it never just lands on me completely. It still feels like, and I think that's a good thing. Like,
Yeah.
I'm always going to be incredibly grateful and humbled, and almost like there's just a lot to live up to in a good way, because for me, it was such a prized position, both as a player, as a student, and now as a coach. Like, yeah, I can't, it's kind of hard to articulate, because it still is, as I'm settling into year 3 here, and I certainly, like, the lay of the land, I'm understanding a little more. It's still like there are just moments where I'm on campus, or I see this brand on my chest, and I'm just incredibly proud to be wearing it, truly.
I mean, I'm the same boat. And something I think you could probably articulate better because you're the coach and you hear it. But for Bear and for Sully and all our listeners, something I learned when my son Jake went there was there's a difference at UCLA about winning. They don't hang banners to hang banners. They hang banners for winning national championships, and that's it. There's an air about it. You're expected to win titles there. And so that is something that's different in most of the schools around the United States. So to have that kind of pressure coming into a program that has won so many, won national championships, both with Coach Banikowski and with Coach Sealy, you're taking it over now. How do you feel about that? Like, just with the pressure of just UCLA, like John Wooden,
Yeah.
Al Skates, Andy Banikowski, like those are some of the three of the greatest coaches ever. I mean, Al and John, you could probably put them as two of the best top 3 coaches in any sport. How does that happen for you when you walk on there to live up to that, success, or to live up to that billing of
Yeah, it's taken some time, honestly. Like, initially getting onto campus, it was different from any institution I've been at prior. And, I'd been a part of a lot of really great volleyball programs that won at different levels and had success in their own rights. And those were all phenomenal institutions and programs. And UCLA is a unique beast in the sense that the standard is that you win. And I think when you learn to kind of lean into that and sink into that, it tests you in every way possible, but also it allows you to really sink in and dive into, like, what are the things that you really are about. And so it's exhilarating for me at this point in my first head coaching job, but to have the bar set so high, and that, yeah, I mean, I get to really lean into years and years of, I think, my toolkit and repertoire, and then lean on the greats that are around us. And I think that's what's special about UCLA is it's not just me. I mean, down the hall there are coaches that are winning championships, year after year. And so you really get to lean into these people that are actually living and walking, the walk on the daily. And so that can be seen as pressure, or it can be like, hey, we lean into, like, what this brand is, and we use the resources around us. And so I think that's pretty special at UCLA.
And on regards to that, with the experience at UCLA, it is a unique place. I grew up in Los Angeles and I've lived here my whole life. I said my wife's an alumni. My son's girlfriend, which will probably be his wife, is an alumni. And it's a unique place for academics and athletics. And, being part of Los Angeles and where the Bruins are, how do you bring that to the ever growing sport of women's volleyball? There's 80,000 people in football stadiums, in Nebraska. There's 15,000 people on a Saturday in Purdue watching Wisconsin. How do you bring the lifestyle of Los Angeles and what UCLA's been known for with regards to academics and athletics to bring that to UCLA? I know that's the goal for you, but how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, we welcome it, honestly, with open arms, and we're recruiting kids, or, athletes, or I should say young women, are coming to us. I mean, UCLA is a dynamic place, and our program is a dynamic program. And so we want to pursue excellence both on the court, obviously in the classroom. That's a necessity. And LA and the landscape we live in is a really dynamic place that we want to be able to really grow and groom these young people to be, um, you know, give them the tools with navigating a place that has so much opportunity. And so I think the landscape of NCAA volleyball and the collegiate athlete now is, I mean, it really is a transformational time.
Yes, it is.
Far beyond being, championships on the court and how to excel in the classroom. We want to set them up for how to be great professionals, whether they're going to be professional volleyball players, professionals in business, connect them with the industry and all of the advantages that we have at UCLA. I think that is the gift of where we live, and obviously some beautiful weather. Yeah, I think it's a really unique time in collegiate athletics where we get to leverage a lot of what this playground of LA is that we have. And so we're not afraid of it. I think this is what we are, and we own that, I think.
Yeah, I think it's an absolute crazy time for you specifically because you were pre-NIL, right?
Yeah.
Now you're in the thick of things, and then things are still changing. It is crazy, and so you kind of got to roll with the punches, I guess. But my humble opinion, there's so much stuff going on behind the scenes, right, that we don't know about in the general public, and we say this all the time, right? Watch for the next 3 to 5 years. Watch for the next 3 to 5 years. Because so
One that
where's
wears
your
your
mind? Yeah, well, where's your mindset and all that, right? Because you saw traditional, right? What it used to be, what it's potentially turning into, what it's turning into, and what it's gonna be, right? So, where's your mindset on that, Alfie? And how do you manage that, and how do you manage your team, knowing that you're trying to build this culture back again as a, national championship contender, and then you got the transfer portal, right? Then you got NILs, and so like, how do you navigate through that?
Yeah, I think the best word that comes to mind is plasticity and just being pliable with really the landscape. Yeah, you're right. When I took this head coaching job, like NIL really wasn't at the forefront, reps there, pay like it was in conversation, but the rapid, I think, progress of this over the last 3 years, like none of us really could have seen. And so my take is like it's happening, and whether we like it or agree with it or not, it's happening. And I think there's a way to still be transformational and meaningful and draw purpose in this landscape of paying athletes. And, like we don't want it to be transactional. And so there's a lot that I don't know and a lot that a lot of coaches don't know. And so when my program, I think it's a real testament to, our philosophies in coaching, how we communicate, like, hey, we're going to try to be as transparent in this as possible because that's all we can do.
Right.
And there has to be space for the athletes also to make decisions. So it's really tested my ability to kind of just like let go a little bit, because the reality is like there's so many factors in this equation and still some unknowns. And we can't get bent out of shape if an athlete wants to leave because, a different institution is paying them more money. Like we can't control that. So it really is. It's in the best sense of the word, like, you kind of put your stake in the ground. This is what our program's about. This is what we can offer. And we stand by that. And we don't really have hard feelings if there's differing feelings on where people land on that. We have to be okay with that because, yeah, there's just a lot of moving parts right now.
Yeah, we talked about it a bunch here about NIL and about the landscape of college sports, and you either get on board or you don't. And it is what it is. As a parent with sports athletes, like you pay $30 for the weekend now to watch your kid play at ASC, or it's just what you do. And if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. But that's what it is. So I think for me, I'm just going to say this because I know you and I know the program you're building, and we've had like Al Knipe, and I said this about him too, is as a parent of an athlete, this is coming from a parent, strictly a parent, is we need more folks like you that are trying to build a culture and a program and an understanding of what's available in today's market and available today as a business/team. I think a lot of these kids and these families in 10 years are going to regret, is the word I'm going to use, some of these decisions based solely off money. Now, I am not going to tell some kid to not take $1 million when someone's offering him $1 million and someone's offering you 10,000. Like that, again, you can't do that. But if you do what you had just said, which, I get to see a lot of things through the emails, and being an alumni's, husband, and what you're doing for the program is outstanding and trying to grow it. But it's just, we need more folks to care about the athlete and explain what really they're missing out on when they have all these things. There's so many different people in their ears, from parents to other schools to money, and it's an ever-changing business. So like you just said, I'll get back to, but you're building a culture where you're trying to explain it to them. And again, at the same time, if they make their decision to go somewhere else, just like you when you were at USD, right? Like you got the job of a lifetime. If someone on your team is killing it and all of a sudden, someone offers them, 10 times what you can, and it's an opportunity, like how do you not support that, right? Like you want what's best for the kid, but sometimes taking the money isn't what's best for the kid. And that's why putting parameters and understandings and goals for a program, I think the culture will win out in the long run. Maybe not in the short run right now with the money, but I think culture is going to win out in the long run for majority of stuff. So that's just me talking about it.
Coley, I think it's a really great point. Like, what's really come to surface for me through this process of starting to talk money with our athletes and the transfer portal and whatnot is that what a great repetition for these young people if done well. Like, these are business transactions. They're going to be outing, and like they're going to have to talk. I mean, money is a part of the world. Like, that's just what they're doing. So we get an opportunity now to have these conversations and real conversations. And I just think if seen that way, it's a real opportunity. It's not always easy, and we don't always end up on the right side of it or the good side or whatever you want to call it, but that's life. And so it's like, if we can teach that to the athlete at this point, and, again, I think it's a full, like, in an umbrella of it all, it really is asking coaches and programs to have a lot of clarity around what you're about, what you're doing, and then transparency and honest conversations are where it's at. Cause I think the athlete can read through that quickly if that's not there.
Yeah. When we had Alan Knipe on here, he brought up two things. One, we talked, well, in Holly McPeak too, we talked about the fallout, meaning first time everybody's going through this, they get through 4 years of NIL money, then they have to go get a job. Like, okay, they potentially can make 250, right? 250 for their sport, and they're looking for an accounting job starting at $60,000 to $75,000. So, and to add on to that, with the fallout, is UCLA in a point where they're going to have advisors for when they leave, how to manage their money? That's one question. And the second into that, when Alan Knight was talking about, he was talking about having a major of being an athlete. You have music majors, you have dance majors, right? And we were like, well, it's the Knight bachelor degree, right? So we were all kidding about that. But and the reality is, you already have economics 101 at school. You have accounting, you have business courses, you have marketing courses, and now social media marketing and all that kind of stuff. He's like, why not be having a major of an athlete? Why aren't we teaching these guys about business and how you can be successful and continue what you've done here and all that? Yeah, marketing, all that kind of stuff. And majority of those classes are already there. So does UCLA have a plan with that fallout, and like, or is it in talks right now? Because it's coming. I mean, this whole NI, it's here, but it's really coming. So I just try to look out for the best interest of the student athlete.
No, I love it. And leave it to Al to, come up with a great idea like that.
It's brilliant. I think it's awesome. Yeah.
I think whether in a formal, curricula or whatnot, like there are a lot of conversations within administration, and I think former coaches of UCLA that are really starting to put their heads together on what this looks like to create education around this for the athlete.
Right.
And whether, we have something called Brew and Bridge, which is your pretty like formal orientation of just learning the ins and outs of campus. And I think, and don't quote me on this, but I could see where like stuff like that starts to change, where it's a lot more specific to this new landscape for the athlete and how to navigate certain things. And while they're there, and certainly while they're leaving, I mean, the fallout of that is absolutely something we're concerned about, just because, what athletes are going to be doing after. And certainly that transition can be stark.
Well, it's hard anyways. It's hard anyways, even with before this. It was hard before this. I mean, and I bring it up. I've been bringing this up for decades. Was the Michigan, a Michigan football player, 105,000 people cheering your name 4 or 5 years, senior night, right? Yeah, everybody's going crazy. You go get a job in a cubicle. No one's giving you attaboys. Like, sure. I mean, and now you got to add the money on top of that, and the expectation with branding. Oh man, like we got to, yeah.
There's a lot thrown at these young athletes. I mean, yeah, they're young adults, right? And with little life experience, it is. I mean, I see it as our job to make sure that they have as much I don't know, internal like compass and understanding of this. I mean, it's a great thing. I'm not saying NIL is a bad thing, but we have to make sure we're protecting, I think, that for student athletes.
Agreed.
This.
Yeah, and
Agreed,
then you got
100%.
roster changes next year. And before you came on, I mean, Bear had a good question about beach and indoors and
I'm wondering, like, okay, so I don't know a lot about the women's volleyball and the women's beach volleyball, like collegiately.
we're bringing them around, Alfie. We're trying. We're trying.
How we're doing the show here, we're trying to, you have to
So I can gain some knowledge. But like, what is your relationship with the women's beach team? And do you guys share players? Do you share scholarships? Can you go into that a little bit? Do you guys do women beach players play indoors? Do the indoor play outdoors? I thought they used to, but they don't anymore. Or how's all that work?
Yeah, Bear, they used to early on the onset. There was a lot of sharing of athletes. And I think as beach and sand volleyball is really like elevated, certainly they have their own athletes now. And I think players are playing beach a lot earlier and specializing in it, and they're dang good. So we actually are. Yeah, we see less and less, if very little, like sharing of athletes anymore. Of course, with like the COVID years, we started to see some athletes actually transfer. Last year, we had a player who was playing at Stanford on the beach program, Kate Riley from the South Bay. She's a great beach player, and she came and played her 5th year indoor for us. She's a phenomenal indoor player in high school, was a great beach player, did a great job at Stanford building that program up in her time, and then decided I have one more year of eligibility. And we're like, yeah, you're a baller. Come play for us.
That's right.
So we've seen that with like that last year of eligibility. And I've actually heard of a couple athletes that are doing that. It's becoming a little, I don't know if I would say prevalent, but I've heard it more and more where beach athletes in their last year are like, hey, I got a year of eligibility. Can I
go back and play indoor.
Yeah, and the beach players are getting, I mean, they're so good. They're just such good all-around players. It's hard to say, no, we're not going to give you a look, even if you haven't been on the hardwood for 4 years. Like, dang, they're still playing great volleyball.
And ball control and everything that they've been doing at the beach and training. So speaking of beach volleyball, since it's such a huge sport now for women and girls around the country and the world for that matter, how do you see the growth from when you were playing back in the days at Santa Barbara and Hawaii to see where it is today? Like, what's your take on it with the level of volleyball today? And where do you see it going in the future here in this country? Not just the world, but in this country.
Yeah, I mean, what an exciting time we're in right now, like in volleyball. I mean, I'm talking men's volleyball, women's volleyball. Like the sport is just from a grassroots level, the juniors level, it's getting bigger and bigger. And then, of course, I would just say specifically for the women's side, just seeing the inception of these leagues domestically has been, I mean, it's been a long time coming, right? And we've had them in
Very much so.
I mean, we've had leagues in the past, and they were great in all means, but like this just, it feels different. It feels like the right time. I mean, the minds around, I think, how we're building these leagues out are just, they're really smart people surrounding it. And so it's just exciting. I mean, I just watched, the Love semifinal.
Me too. Or quarters. Yeah.
we're just watching. Yep.
Furby, yes, which was a bummer. So I was, bummed for him. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing, right? I didn't mean to interrupt you, but ESPN Plus, the semis are on ESPN2. Why I always forget the other league? I can't believe that, and I should, know the name of it. The Federal Volleyball one. Yeah, I just the other league that's crushing it. I'm watching it on TV, watching Holly killing it. They're giving $1 million for the win, and that gym is packed every time I turn it on TV. Yep. It's Friday night, Saturday, it doesn't matter. LOVB as well. It's just so exciting for a fan, and for me to get back into the game with Set the Pipe and going out to watch more volleyball, and obviously a lot of my friends' kids play, but like, wow, I'm excited to just be a part of it as a fan. And I could see you being a coach and being at the Olympics, and then seeing, this indoor game. So another question for you at UCLA, I mentioned it earlier, but so with the growth of the game, you guys played SC this year and it was like 8,000 people in Pauley. It was awesome. It was awesome. How can, and I say how can we, continue to emulate that and have 5,000 to 7,000 people every night watching your Bruins play?
Yeah, I mean, winning certainly helps with that for us at UCLA. And, I think that's always a good thing. But I really do think it's about, people want to know the people behind the jersey, right? And so I think for us, it takes time as a staff, but as a program, just to get into our volleyball communities here a little more, like gym by gym, club by club, and just sharing, like, it's more than just volleyball for us, And so I think that story is what we're really trying to get across the line or get across to people, that our volleyball enthusiasts in Southern California is just, hey, like, we got a great program that does a lot of great things, but also there's a lot more of what we're building. And I think giving our athletes the platform and the space, I think, to connect and inspire is really what it's about for collegiate athletes. I know there's a lot more on the table now, but we don't want to get far from that. And so I think getting into the communities for us, it's asking our athletes, what are the communities that move you? What inspires you? And where can we put you in front of these people to actually build connections? And we're hoping that that along with winning some games will
So when you're recruiting, then are you looking more at the person themselves than the athlete, or how do you combine the two? Like you need the athlete because you need to win, but the person also the teammate. Like how do you recruit?
Yeah, that's a good question, Bear. I'd say it's like a sliding scale, right? I think most of the top programs are looking at top talent, and you can identify that. And like talent is, I mean, there are the top percentage of players that are going to help you. And then there's a large, I'd say the next tier of maybe not the best athletes, but like pretty dang good volleyball players. And that's kind of the fun like threshold where now you're really starting to look at like what kind of athlete is this, and does this athlete really fit not just my program, but the equation of my team for 2 to 3 years, And so that's where we start to really pick apart like, is she a bulldog? Is she kind of an engineer mind? Like how does she tick, and how does she operate? And that's different for, what's required is different for every position and different in every class, because the makeup of a team is like, you never want the one of everybody the same, right? So you're that's the fun part of recruiting, is it's just this big pie that you're piecing together, and then there's no really right answer, but it's like, where are the trade-offs truly? And so, it really is. I mean, we go back to the board. We have our everybody has a recruiting board to some degree. And you're just, I mean, we stare at it and just, all right, like how does this, and you have your list of kids, and how does this kid fit physically? How does she fit emotionally and mentally, competitively? Like, so it's just all these things. And I think as you get, for us, or for myself, I'll say, as we get further into this project, I should say, or UCLA, our program growing, like you start to really know what you need, not just for your volleyball team, but also in this environment, specifically at UCLA, like with academics, with living here, like that becomes very clear. It's become very clear, or a lot more clear, I should say, like season after season, quarter after quarter, watching our team move and knowing what we need in this space and in this time. That's a long-winded answer, Bear. I hope that.
It was a good one, though. No, it was a good one because it's important.
And so back in the day, we didn't have social media, we didn't have internet, so you really had to dig about who this athlete was. And, you can see them, how they hold themselves on the court, how they play, how they, deal with their teammates. There's a ton of information out there now. I mean, you can go into all their accounts, you can talk to their coaches, you can talk to their club coaches, high school coaches, watch them on the court. What are your main things that you look through, or do you look through all of them? Because it's got to be overwhelming nowadays. I mean, Alfie, you look like a super young guy, right? But you're in the same era,
Thank you.
pre-internet, right? Though, right? And you're definitely pre-social media. So how do you guys navigate that? Because like it's just got to be overwhelming to try to get that right fit for you guys. Like you were saying, you put them on the board and you kind of ad nauseum go, who's going to fit in this thing? But there's a ton of information. How do you guys wield that down?
Yeah, it's I was just thinking about this the other day, because when I started college coaching, it was 2009, I was at Minnesota, and we were still like plugging CDs, like taking like some people were still sending VHSs, and like so it was still pretty bare bones, right? Social media wasn't a thing, like we weren't looking at that stuff. And so I say that because I was thinking about this the other day. It's really easy, yeah, as you said, to be overly consumed, almost like so much information, and we have to filtrate things. And so for me, it's like, I don't know, you can go on a kid's social media and make a million narratives up as to like who they are, what they are. And like, I don't know that that's necessarily fair, so maybe it is to some degree, but point is you got to filtrate through that stuff. And so for me, it's like, it's so important to get out, watch the kid, speak to the spheres of influences that we've learned are really impactful, incredible, like for them, and ask the right questions, So I try not to go too far outside of that, because I don't want to overcomplicate it. It's like we watch them play, and then we get the information from people that really matter and who we trust, that know these kids. And so, but yeah, it's easy. I mean, I've gone down the rabbit hole, and that's a scary place to be, because then you're just like, I don't know what I'm even looking at anymore,
Right.
So
Yeah.
trying to keep that process as clean as we can, simple. and then filter out the stuff that really doesn't matter,
Yeah, I think it would be hard I talked to many folks, Jerry and others at your level, and trying to recruit the best kids every year, for you, for Texas, for Wisconsin, for all of these teams, and doing, finding that right fit. And so, like, I'm going to ask you a question. This might put you on the spot, and probably you'll get a couple calls or texts later. But through all the years of your coaching, who's your favorite, I should say, and not like the best player. It could be the best player. It could be the best player. Like, how do you go back to finding that right fit when you were coaching all these years? Give me a couple of your favorite players, and I would bet one of your favorite players wasn't the greatest 5-time All-American Olympian of ever, because it goes along with how you recruit, I would think, right? Finding character, finding the right fit. I'm just curious who they are and how, and you go about it that way.
All right, I'm going to be super diplomatic and not go to my team right now because those are all current people. So I'll leave UCLA where they are. Yeah, I honestly, gosh, probably the top one that I think of, and she didn't come in as a 4-year for us, but when I was at San Diego, we were fortunate to bring Gabby Blossom in as a transfer setter for us. And she came from Penn State, where, that might be a little bit, she came with a lot of tangibles and a lot of qualities. I think that program that we had to attribute to Penn State and Russ, but nonetheless, she wasn't the biggest kid, and that's kind of why I loved her. Like, she was probably seen by many as like a little bit, just probably shouldn't have done what she did in her career, but absolute heart of a lion, a tremendous learner, competitor, strategist, and just a great kid to work with. I mean, so she was a big catalyst as to why, a very big reason as to why we made the Final Four that year.
Man, that team was fun to watch.
They were.
Yeah, she ran the show, right? So it's just, I think that's kind of neat with the transfer portal right now, is like, it's a hard thing when you lose kids, and it's pretty great when you get kids like her. And so she's one of many, but she's probably one right now that, like, she stands out to me.
Okay, so we can circle back to UCLA, but let's take you back a couple years, just a couple, right? So out of high school, you chose the Gauchos. Why the change going to Hawaii? And that's
Yeah, okay.
Santa Barbara's your backyard. Santa Barbara's your
Yeah, you set that up solely. I thought you were going to talk about like San Diego a couple of years. Yeah, okay, I got to go back to Santa Barbara. That's good.
It was only a couple years ago.
And was it Kenny? When did you play for Kenny? Was he still coaching at that time, Preston?
I did, man. So okay, let's do it. I remember my first, my junior year of high school. I played at Oxford High School. It was a setter in high school, and I'll never forget. This is kind of weird, kind of full circle, but my high school coach was like, "Hey, Kenny, Kenny's in the gym. He's like, start jump setting and like make it." And I'm like, "Okay, like he might only be here for 5 seconds, and he was, and he certainly wasn't there to watch me. He was there to watch probably some middle, I think I remember. But anyhow, like, so fast forward to my senior year, and I'm playing club volleyball at Club Santa Barbara for John Lee. It actually, my whole high school career, my heart was set on going to UCLA. That's the school I wanted to go to. I wanted to play. I went to camps. I always joke. Brandon Talifero was one of my camp coaches, and he wasn't the nicest guy. And I was joking. He knows that. I always joke with him about that. But anyway, so I wanted to go to UCLA. I didn't get into school out of high school. I certainly wasn't big enough to play for Al. Good enough, really, at that time, and that's fair. But I did get into UCSB. And so when I got in, Kenny was like, "Hey, like, we can give you a walk-on tryout." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm in." So went to school, literally tried out the first week of fall quarter. There was about, I don't know, maybe about 10 freshmen, and they kept 2 of us on the team. And I was just like, all right, I'm going to plug away at this. And so my freshman year, I didn't even play, actually. I redshirted my freshman year. Just practiced with the team, kind of earned my street cred there, and started to realize, like, hey, like, I can play. It wasn't until my second year that I started playing a little bit more, like, as a DS. We had a great libero, Aaron Mansfield, he's the head coach at Oklahoma. He was great.
Yeah.
Phenomenal libero. And so at the end of my second year, I was like, I can do this, and I was really fortunate. I talked about people that were just really instrumental through that time. And Todd Rogers was my assistant coach. And so I'll never forget, the team went away to play at Hawaii, and I didn't make the travel roster. And by that point, I was playing some really good volleyball, and I knew it. And I missed the travel roster. Todd didn't go because I think he was playing ADP. So I was like training with him in the gym, and I had to sit down with him. And I was like, Todd, I'm thinking about leaving because I really believe I can do this. And I know I'm not going to play here. And I understand that. And I'm okay with that. But what do you think? And he's like, Alfie, I think you got to go. Like, I think you got to go and
I love Todd. He's always honest, and Todd's such a good guy.
such a good guy, like phenomenal coach. He was great for us, so instrumental for me. And so I did, and I kind of bet on myself. I was like, I really think I can, and I sent my tapes out to. Back then, you sent tapes out. You didn't jump in the champions portal. You had to really do the work, and so I remember sending a tape to Marv at Pepperdine and to Mike Wilton at Hawaii, and Mark was gracious.
Sean Northridge, what are you doing?
I'm
kidding.
I was trying. No, no, no. I was gonna say I was trying to get away from home, but that's Malibu's equally as close. So I guess.
Yeah, no, I get. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So you sent it. So you sent it to Marvin to Wilton.
Yeah. I sent to those two, and Marv, being the gracious guy, he's like, "Hey, like, we have somebody in this position, thanks." And Mike was like, kind of the same thing. Come on out, and like, you'll be on the team. We got you, but we can't promise you anything. And I was like, all right, here I am. I said I'm gonna bet on myself, and so I packed up my bags with I think $3,000 in my bank and just moved out. Never been to Hawaii. Never been on a plane. Just like jumped on the plane and went. And I tell you now, guys, like I look back, I'm like, what? Like I wouldn't even like. There's no way, just like blind naivete at a young age. Yeah. But there's something to like. That's a story that like I tell a lot of my athletes is like, when you really leading, so tell. Like I don't say it, I don't tell it enough, honestly. But like with athletes that I've coached in the past, I'm like, look, at some point you have to bet on yourself, and you don't know, you may not get what you want, but at the end of the day, like, go all in on you and see what happens.
Well, first of all, if you're talking to someone at UCLA, they're good at. They're pretty good. So that's the first thing. Like obviously they know how to play volleyball, but like I think you should tell that story in every year at the first, barbecue you guys tell, because I think it's such an important, first of all, attribute to you of who you are and where you've started and where you are today. And the other thing, again, what we're trying to do here, at Set the Pipe is tell stories and just try to evangelize volleyball for everyone listening, young kids. Look what he just said. Like he was a walk-on. He went to one school, believed in himself, bet on himself, went to another school where he'd never been and became an All-American. Right. And now he's the head coach at UCLA and he bet on himself. And, sometimes those bets don't work out, but you learn in the process and it's the journey that matters. And it's just what a great story. I mean, I knew a lot of this about Alfee, but I didn't know that piece about Santa Barbara and when you left and why. And to turn that around is fantastic. And again, I would tell you to tell everyone. I mean, that's a great story. And it's such a foundation of how to work hard to be the best you can be, whatever that best is. But it's really that.
Yeah, you have no regrets. You you bank on yourself. You have no regrets because if it doesn't work out, hey, I gave it my all. At least I did. Instead, I tell this athletes all the time: woulda, coulda, shoulda. So are you gonna do it?
Yeah.
Right.
It's so true, Sully. I appreciate that, Coley, and thank you. And Sully, you saying that, like, I can remember being like in my dorms in Hawaii and thinking, man, you put so much on the line for this. Like you got to make this work. Like, like, and I don't know, like, had the story gone a different way, I don't know, like, it'd be, but I think I'd still feel the same way. Like, this is what I chose to do, and I can sleep at night with that. But I do remember just when you put more on the line, like, you don't give it up as easily, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. True.
Well, what about playing overseas though? Like you put yourself on the line on that, right? Do you have like some experiences over there? You played in France. I mean, how'd you even get over there?
Right. I was just gonna same thing. Yeah. How'd you get over that? I mean, it was back in the day. I mean, you didn't send VHS tapes, did you?
I sent a VHS tape. That's how I got over there.
No, Tim's got a lot of guys. Never me, but he did a lot of my teammates. He was responsible for them. No, my first year, I was fortunate enough. I was playing on the NAT. So right out of Hawaii, 2006, I was ready to coach guys. I remember I applied at a junior college position up north in Northern California. Thought I was done, and Hugh called me. The national team called, and he was like, "You got to just come out for a month. Like, just give it a try." And I was like, "No, I'm good. Like, I'm gonna go coach. I'm done. Like, hanged up. Like, it's been a great run." He's like, "Alfie, just come out for a month." And I was like, "All right, I'll come out for a month. That's all you get." And then a month turned into the summer. And then, by 2007, I had gone to World Cup with that team, preparing for Beijing, and we were playing in Japan. and Hugh told me there's an offer in Montenegro to go play overseas. And I was like, where the heck is Montenegro? I've never even I couldn't even tell you on a map where that is, but okay, like, let me take a look at it. And so I don't know. I think back then I probably went to a library and looked at a map, something. There was no internet.
Microfiche pulled it out.
Yeah, it's so big. I'm like, oh my God. So I see this little speck of a country on, on the coast, and I think, okay, yeah, okay, like, here we go. Okay, if I'm going to do this, like, I'm going to play professionally, then I'm going to do it, and let's get over there. So kind of a little naivety at a young age. And guys, I can't even remember communicating with my manager there. I got on a flight. I don't even know where I'm living. And I pull up into this, it's just a different world. There was no internet. I mean, it's very different. And that was probably the most trying year. I can't say the most, but one of the more trying years of playing, just because it was so far from, like, I just got done at Hawaii, playing in this, like, wonderful environment, and I'm in a different world playing volleyball. That tested me, like, to the core.
I'm sure.
That was transformational.
It can
for
be,
sure.
it can be very difficult because, like you said, you were at Hawaii, a superstar, right? And then you go over there, and how many people are you playing in front of?
There's maybe 100.
Right. I know I had the same thing when I played over there too, and it's crazy. And you don't know the language. There's no internet. And it can be very lonely at times.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think I'd take my laptop outside and, like, try to angle it right just to get, like, 1 bar of internet to, like, talk to my mom, but no, but it was such a powerful time. Honestly, like, it really, talk about having to grow up and, like, you figure out, is this what you want to do? I mean, there's a lot of time to think over there, and you're staring around like, is volleyball really what I want to do? And it was, and we actually had a great year that year. We made it to a Final Four in CV, and it was really great. But it certainly had it was tough as a young professional, and learning, like, what the industry was.
I think played over. Oh, go ahead, Bear.
I was just wondering, whereabouts in France did you play?
I was in Montpellier, so in the south.
In the south. Okay.
Yeah, it was
Very good.
beautiful.
I was
At
at
that point, I was living large. I'm like, oh, this is easy. Like, we're playing in France. This is all good. Like, we got internet, we got telephones now. Like, back to normal.
Yeah. It's like everything. You listen to someone who's a rock star, and everyone thinks it's the greatest life, and then you talk to them, and they're sleeping in a bus every night and driving. And, like, the cool thing about playing volleyball in Europe, I got to do it. Bear got to do it. You got to do it. Sorry, Sully. Mooney and I got to do it. We both did it at different times. It's amazing. You're making money. You're playing the sport you love. You're an adult. But for us, again, the new leagues here in the United States, make it such a great opportunity for these young women. But, like, you're going to a different culture, a different country. It's not as easy as you think it is, and it's not all peaches and cream, right? Like, it's hard. It's lonely. There's a lot of different things. You're the American or the foreigner where you need to perform every single night at the and you're supposed to, you're a pro, but, like, there's a lot to be said about being over there. So for you to be able to go over there at such a young age after such success, and then to figure it out, and then to go back again and play a couple more years before you end up coming back over here to get into the coaching world, good for you. And it's, again, probably maybe helpful for you when you talk to some of your athletes who want to go have those dreams to go do that.
Yeah, and you were talking about your national connections. When you came back from your professional, was Hugh there at Minnesota? Was Hambly at Illinois when you went to those 2 places? Who was the head coaches there?
When I went to Minnesota, Hugh had taken the job. He already signed on as the head coach, but he was still finishing his obligations.
Obligations, right.
So we had an interim head coach there at the time by name of Laura Bush, who I was with there. And then when I got to Illinois, Hambly had already gone to Stanford. So I was actually working with Chris Thomas there.
Okay, yeah, for one of his first years. He's still there. Yep.
Yeah, still there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So going from the Pac-12, I mean, it was only a year for you, to the Big Ten. How is it playing in that Big Ten, in that conference? I mean, it's probably one of the best, if not the best, conference in women's volleyball.
Yeah, the Pac-12 is great. Don't get me wrong. Like, it was a really challenging. It's one of the best conferences historically, and it was really challenging night in and night out. The Big Ten is, the actual level of play, like the competition level, I can't say, like, it's pretty comparable. I think the Big Ten is probably a little bigger and physical, so you get, like, it feels like you're getting bruised and just kind of knocked in the face a little more. And then I think top to bottom, probably. Yeah, there's more parity. So it feels like you can just drop to anyone any night in the Big Ten. And Yeah, and then the environments are just bigger than, and that's just mental stimuli and like resources that are expended, you know. So like stepping into Nebraska and then going to play at Wisconsin like back to back, like that's a lot, you know, and it's
Different than Washington State and Oregon State. I mean, that's
right.
the
And
bad.
no slide on that. Like
Yeah, no, of course. My kids are going to play at Washington State and hoops, so I get it. But I'm saying it's way different, right? You're playing against Wisconsin one day, and then you're playing Nebraska. That's a big difference, and it's crazy to do that. How was the travel for you this year?
yeah, the travel, it wasn't easy for sure. I would say it had its challenges, and I think we learned a lot this year. But yeah, it's we all knew it was going to be a beast, and I don't think there's any prep for what that was other than doing it. I would say even like, you know, I've traveled internationally. We've all traveled internationally. Play like the back and forth of it. It's not so much the one trip, but it's the cumulative effect of it and how you recover over the course of time. So like I think our resources to do that over the longevity, you gotta be really good with scheduling and like days off and times off, and like kids are switching from time zone to time zone I mean, there's a lot of moving parts that you want to just make sure, you know, we learned a lot through this year. And so, yeah, it's what it is. I shouldn't even say it was, you know, it's just, it's the challenge is the challenge, and that's what we're signed up for. But we learned out, we got to be smarter, certainly, and taking care of our athletes on the back end of trips.
Yeah, what if you just tap into the Lakers in your backyard by saying, you guys travel all the time. How do you manage keeping your bodies and your sleep and your food? And I mean, it's
We have a little bit
not
money
to that
to do
extent,
to
but
do
it's
that,
pretty
but
similar.
no, it is a little bit. They have a lot more cash on the recovery side to help the athletes.
Yeah, no, yeah, but still having some ideas to, take care of the athletes.
No, I think that's right, and that's what we're headed to. Is like there's a lot of science, you know, and just using our resources both on campus too. I mean, there's so many sleep studies and just nutrition. Like, just you got to win like the small in anything, the small percentages that travel and like recovery right now. That's huge for us. So, yeah, our schedule is what it is.
It is. And the other thing is, like you said, and we talked about this on multiple episodes, is being able to adapt. I mean, like at the end of the day, like things, they are what they are, right? Like you're in the Big Ten, you're going to play Michigan, you're going to play Nebraska. Like there's no like, what do we do? Like you're playing them and you're going to fly to play them. So you can either figure it out and embrace it and work on the sleep and understand and help them study at certain times, or complain about it and say, what are we doing? But at the end of the day, you're still in the Big Ten and you're still playing Wisconsin and Michigan, right? So, the way to handle it is the way you're doing it is embracing it. And I think that's what's going to have to happen going forward with all collegiate sports. It's the landscape's going to be changing weekly, if not monthly, yearly, and it'll be a lot different in 3 to 5 years than it is today.
Yep.
And you sound like you're doing it right, where you're one of the younger thriving coaches and embracing the changes and trying to wrap what it takes to be successful today, instead of using it the other way and complaining and ending up maybe not coaching in a few years. So it's great to hear that, especially for UCLA, because I want to see UCLA women's volleyball back at the top. It's great when I'm living with someone that cheers for them every game, and the text chains that are going on during every one of your matches is amazing with some legends. So it's pretty fun to hear the things that they say. So you're doing it. So how do you continue to help UCLA grow in your realm of what you want to see it? And how do you also help volleyball grow back in California to try to emulate the Midwest and the East with what they're doing for the support behind it?
Yeah, for UCLA, I think for the first part of that question, I think it's, we have this great vision, of course, and there's so many parts. It's not just winning on the court, as we've talked about, like really building out the program in many facets. And so I think just for us and my staff, it's having, we're really good with what the vision is, and then the patience and the diligence just to really see step by step. It's really easy, as I've learned, to get lost in like, we need to be here and we want to be here, and truly like, it's like building a team, right? Or just a match. It's like, hey, we're not going to get from A to B like in a day. And so we got to remain patient through the process. And I know that's so cliche, but sure, with discipline of that, it's really easy, I think, to get sidetracked and, I think to jump into, this lane of we're doing this or whatever it is. I mean, there's so many things right now in this industry that can pull you away. And so I think for us, it's being really connected to the purpose and meaning of why we're here and what we're doing and what we're building, and then the patience of just building that out steadily over the course of time. We've definitely taken it on the chin a little bit these last couple of years. I think we thought it's been humbling. We thought we would have had better finishes, and we've learned from that, and we're moving through that and moving forward. And so I think just staying the course with it for us in terms of the volleyball program. And now we've added a lot of different layers to that. Like I said, it's not just volleyball and academics. It's like, how do we build out these professional development plans for our athletes in the NIL space and grow them here? So there's just keeping that equation, but in a lot of different facets of what this job requires now, I think is really important.
How do you help your girls after playing that want to play at the next level? Like as a junior college coach, I'm talking to other coaches trying to move them on either NAIA, maybe Division 3, hopefully Division 1. But if a girl wants to play for the national team or wants to go play overseas, what are you guys doing to help them in that aspect?
Yeah, starting of the beginning of a senior year for an athlete, for us in their last year of eligibility, we sit them down and we're like, here, like now there's more options. But before it was, you got overseas and you have national team if you're kind of in that caliber to even do that, which very few are. But now like we're talking love. We're like, hey, make sure you're watching some love matches, some PVF matches. There are options out there. So we sit them down, give them their option for the athletes that have interest and we think have the capacity to do it, then we start to build out a plan through their senior year. And by the time they get into, I would say now about like October, like agents are already calling. So we help facilitate like connecting them with people that, are interested in them. And then by the end of the year, hopefully, like this last year, we sent a senior, Anna Dodson, to go play. She sent herself, I should say, to go play in Italy. And that was all facilitated kind of through the fall season of her senior year. So I definitely leverage, our coaches have connections. We all know people overseas. And so it's just trying to really give them the platform to connect and then like guide them and mentor them through that process.
Didn't mean to interrupt as I always do because I love to talk, but I'm going to go back to the PVF. I got it, the PVF and the LOVB with that becoming prevalent here in the United States. And it looks great on television. The crowds are great. So I'm hopeful that it continues to grow. I know there's a new one coming out. Will that change for women in college volleyball now, where we might start to see it more like an NBA or where there's a draft and there's more to see it other than just one kid getting plucked? Will we see something like that, you think, as the growth of this goes in the indoor women's pro game?
I think so. I think the PVF has started with the draft, and I think love as it grows will get there. Yeah, I would not be surprised if we start seeing that within the next couple of years. I mean, the interest level from our athletes, I mean, let's just say our senior class right now is, I've asked a couple of them, like, hey, are you thinking overseas? Are you thinking, they're like, no, I'd actually like to play for a domestic team that's in my hometown. Like there's real interest to like go back and get back to the grassroots programs that they all
That's
grew up in.
awesome.
Like and to me, that's like the coolest thing. Like the fact that a kid's like, I can go back to Atlanta and like actually give back to the club that got me here. Like what? Like that's just, I mean, not possible. Like
Yeah.
5 years ago, right? So it's,
3 years ago. She's 3 years ago. I mean, it hasn't been possible ever. And I've been wanting to see pro volleyball since I was playing back in high school at Reseda. Had to give Reseda a little love right there.
Little love.
So, back in those days, but like, everyone wanted to be a professional. We all wanted to be. And like, really, there was one choice, and it was to ship yourself overseas to play. And now that there's so much opportunity for women to play in the indoor league, hopefully the men will come along, but that's a different discussion. And, just to see the growth of women's volleyball across the board here, from the indoor game to the beach game, it's exciting. It's exciting as a fan. It's exciting as have friends that coach it, that have daughters that play in it. It's fun to watch. It's exciting. I've getting people texting me. I used to just get people texting me on a Final Four or maybe an Olympic gold medal, or, when the beach is going on the Olympics. Like, now it's on everywhere. You can watch it on, from every medium of watching it on content. It's great. So it's cool to see that, and I hope it continues. The growth continues for the opportunities for young girls and women to continue to play this sport, because it's such a fun game and it's such a great culture as we're all sitting here, right? Like we've,
So great.
indirectly known you for a long time, Alfie, and obviously you're the head coach at my wife's alma mater, and so we're involved in those things as well. And what a great sport that you get to coach and be a part of, and that we get to be a part of, and trying to grow this, because it needs to continue to do it, because it's such a fantastic sport.
That Coley, like that sentiment is, I think, what's gotten our sport to where it is now. The people that truly love, and I mean, just like kind of breathe and live this sport, and this podcast, what you guys do, like telling stories. I think it's what's gotten and elevated the sport along, and it's just so. I mean, to see the evolution truly, like through my lifetime, from where it was to from childhood to now, it's been unfathomable. Like I couldn't imagine it. A girl we are now. And if I'm just talking about the, you asked, what do we hope for volleyball in our country? And like in other countries for so many years, Italy, any European country, these kids are growing up watching the best of the best in the world play. And like, what an advantage that's been for those kids and volleyball in that country to really grow and be played at a high level. And now in the women's sport, yeah, I mean, we used to watch it at the Olympics, and that was it. And then I remember watching Karch on the AVP like every weekend, and that was like amazing. But now these young people, these young women, these young girls get to see Jordan Olympic medalists play on their TV screens, ESPN, their platforms, like every night. And the advantage to see that and dream is what it's about. Is like, I used to watch Karch and be like, that is freaking rad, like watching like the Manhattan Beach Open, or when they played it out, like seeing the crowds of the AVP on Saturdays, like that was like something put in my head at a young age. That I'm like, that's possible. I don't know if that's what I want to be, but that's possible. And I think that's what's happening right now, and what's so special to see, like in this renaissance of volleyball. I think it's going to pay off in dividends beyond what we even know, for years to come.
And I've said it multiple times on multiple our episodes, is I think we have to do a better job at home. I think we have to put the TV on. We have to put it on for our kids. We literally have to get off your phone, or even during dinner time, put it on so they can watch it, right? Because my experience, especially girls, are just not going to go in and say, "Hey, when's the volleyball game?" We're not there yet, right? But if we just put it there, we're getting there absolutely, because there's so many more opportunities to watch. But we got to start just putting it on, like we put on basketball, baseball, football, right? We got to put on volleyball for these girls, and right. And then if you're close enough, go watch them. Like you said, instead of just watching them on TV, you can actually go watch your heroes. You can, she was in the Olympics? Like, that's crazy. But I still think that's one of the things that we got to do at a club level, right? Is to say, hey, we've got matches on tonight. This is who's playing. Make sure you guys turn on for dinner. It's just part of our culture. It's not quite there yet, but like Coley said, we're getting there. And it's because last year's tournament was freaking amazing. This past season's tournament, the final for women's, was unbelievable, and it was amazing. So to be a part of that, and it's just, I think we're almost there. We're almost there if we can just have a little bit more influence with our youth, and it'll explode.
But you just said something, Alfie, that struck me in my heart that I think is pretty rad. Is you just said you're letting the dreamers dream. Right? When I'm a kid back in the 80s, again, dating myself, you're watching the Wild World of Sports, and you're watching maybe Kareem and the Lakers play a game. So, and like Sully said, you're sitting with your dad or your mom and you're watching that. Now these young girls, an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old that's learning how to play pepper with her mom or her dad or her sister or her friend outside, can now go in and not be forced, not that they don't want to watch the Lakers playing, the Celtics. They can turn on the television and watch what we just watched, the semis or the quarterfinals of the LOBB. They can go watch the BVF on TV. They can turn on ESPN Plus and watch almost every women's college game across the country,
Even YouTube
during it. It's incredible. And what it does is, like you said, it just kind of struck me, because that's how I've always lived my life when I was an athlete, and clearly as a parent with my kids, is always telling them to dream. And what a cool thing for a young girl these days to have that opportunity to watch it and dream and want to be on that TV one day and have that opportunity. It's cool. It's really cool that it's come this far. Still got a long way to go, but it's been really cool to see, where it is. And before we jump off, I have to ask you one question, because I know you're a student of the game and you love it. Hopefully you're going to have an answer for this, but have you watched any men's games this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had one.
Have you seen Nikoloff, the setter from Long Beach State, live yet? And the reason I ask you that is you talk about the evolution of the game and what he's doing here and changing the game. The men's game, we all us four played it. What am I talking about?
That
The level is just, it's so fast, it's so big, it's so strong. But what do you think of him?
So I admittedly have not seen him live, and I'm ashamed to say that. Okay, but through VNL last year, him playing internationally, of course, like watched a lot of him there, and then learned he's coming in. I was like, man, he's coming to play NCAA volleyball. That's wild. He's how can I say this? He's, dare I say, a generational player.
yeah, we said that.
Definitely can say that.
Yeah, we've had that
And
number.
so, I mean, just somebody who's gifted with the physicality, of course, like his stature, but also, I mean, that coupled with his actual volleyball acumen is insane to me. I mean, it's very seldom we see players, I think, with the power, but also the finesse and the brains that he has. And I'm talking like, and to say that as a setter, like he's not an attacker, but just like how dynamic he plays. I mean, I think there are players that kind of revolutionized the game in a lot of eras, and I think Engapet was one of those on the men's side. Like he kind of changed some things for the game, and I think Moni has the chance to do that, certainly, and is doing that, I should say. But he's incredibly impressive. I mean, it's fun to watch.
Do you think he'll translate over to the women's side of setting? For instance, like guys now are trying to emulate him. They go up, they fake the set, or they let it go over, they turn and hit. Do you think girls are going to start doing that, or will start trying to set like him?
So
Possibly.
yeah, I think so. I mean, I think I'm seeing like, not just, things he's doing. I think things the men's side of the game, tends to play with a little sooner, like the outsides kind of setting, like hitting and faking and setting, like goes, like stuff like that. I think that stuff certainly, it sets kind of the belief of like, hey, or not the belief, but like, hey, this is a creative way to play the game. And so I know we're seeing it on the women's side already. And
Awesome.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Brandon. I'm excited to see, Brandon bringing the recent coaching of men's game, at UCLA, and then to go coach with Sully, who's been with the women's with Jerry at Texas forever. Like, what does he bring, or what does he add? It's going to be exciting. I'm excited to see what they do. Obviously, I'm excited to see what Karch does, but I'm excited. I keep saying it because every time I'm on, we are excited. But I think right now, and it's been like this for a while, but I don't think volleyball in this country is ever been in a better place that I can think of that it's been now. We've got unbelievable, well, they're young in my age, but young volleyball players that have been around for a long time. Yourself, Alan, John Spraw, who did it all and now is running USA Volleyball, Eric Sullivan, Brandon Taliaferro, who's coaching at UCLA, is about to coach with the USA team. We're in great hands. It's exciting to watch. I know we're coming up here on time, but with your training, when you train your team and you talk about what we just talked about, the evolution of the game and trying to get to that next level, what's the ionus on training for you? Like, is it vital to do every little step? Do you focus on different things to try to get to that highest level in regards to being the best?
I think that we said creativity is a big thing and like thinking the game, so I think we use the term exploration a lot, like how do we explore some new things? And certainly we set some of the parameters and guidelines for that. But I think giving the athletes, and especially in the women's game, the permission to play, and play with some things is a big thing. And I think our women are brought up they're playing organized volleyball from a very young age. And so
Too young, but that's a different topic.
yeah, that could be a different podcast. I'll jump on for that too. But
Yes.
no, I do think like that's something that's lost is like the pickup games that you see, or like you see guys playing like, baby court all the time and just like
Short court.
short court, and just finding different ways to kind of experiment with the game and have fun with it. And so we try to give that permission in our gym, certainly, like to just play, and explore. And I think that's the fun part, and it keeps it fun.
One thing John Price did when I played in Northridge, which was awesome, we'd probably do this maybe once every 2 months, is he'd have a draft and there'd be a 2-on-2 tournament, and he'd take half the court, he'd put up an antenna and a half, so you'd play short court, so it was so you could play two matches in each net, and it was double elimination, and you'd play, and the winner got whatever shirt. You got to go be the best. Well, in those days, you just wanted to win because
bragging rights. Yeah.
yeah, people would not want to hear it. But like, it was so fun to be able to compete in that way, and it teaches you something totally different because you're playing in a small court. So I love that you do that kind of stuff. I'm just so excited to see where we're going to be in 5 years. Take the NIL and all that other crap away. Just what we just talked about, from the evolution of where we were 5 years ago to watching a generational talent like Nikolov, to seeing what you're doing at UCLA and who you're bringing and how you're training. Like, I can't wait to watch like the women's Final Four in 2 or 3 years when you're in it, and also watching the level from just last year to where it's going to be in 2 or 3 years. I mean, it's going to be so exciting.
I think if we throw that all together, because I'm enjoying this. Believe me, I don't have to be any. I mean, I'm enjoying it as long as you guys are. But as we throw that together, just like the visibility of players at a young age, our young people seeing these higher level players play. I mean, when I go and watch club tournaments now, I'm like, wow, like these 16-year-old young girls are just like, holy man, the volleyball that's being played at that level is pretty impressive. And
Yeah, it is.
I have to believe that's because they have more visibility, more opportunities to see volleyball played at a different, like it's in there. And whether it's social media, whatever it is, they just have the opportunities now to see it. And so it is impacting us at the younger levels.
And you say pretty, when you said pretty impressive. Pretty would not be the word. I would say it's beyond impressive. Mooney and I were in Arizona last year for Braden's hoop tournament, and one of our friends, 12-year-old, playing for Arizona Storm. Right, we haven't been to a girls' junior volleyball tournament in years. So we walk into this thing, and all of a sudden she's 6 feet. By the way, so she's 6 feet. Her dad played at Northridge and UCLA, and all of a sudden we're watching like slides, and like people are running like back row attacks, and I'm like, this is 12U. I didn't even pick up a volleyball. Like, I didn't even know what a volleyball was when I was 12. And like, you're watching these young girls and and there's like 30 courts, and you're just going like, this is incredible. This is high school volleyball in 1989. And I'm watching 12U in 2024. They would have probably been right in the game, definitely against Reseda back in the 80s. But like, it's incredible to me how fast and how crazy the game, like the level of at such a young age is being played. Like the skill set of it, I should say. Like the skill set at that young age is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think coaching is getting better. I think like training strategy is getting better, and the athletes are just. I mean, I can't say more. Yeah, I think it is pretty impressive. I say.
It wasn't that long ago that I was in that club scene, and I was told that girls can't hit a 0 tempo 1. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what? And so when we started running it and started just outquaking people, there's like, I guess, yeah, okay. It was, I'm not going to say where I was living, right? Because I throw people on the bus, but I was astonished because that's not, remember, it was Southern California. This is all they did, right? This is all they did. They were running those quicks, and they were running the threes, the 31s, the backslides, all that kind of good stuff. And you go to an area where,
And Idaho.
okay, well, yeah,
Okay.
well, they weren't. Neither was the college, actually. So yeah, they were running 1.5s, and so all of a sudden we're bringing kids in. They're like, "Wow, you got a fast offense." I'm like, "No, they're just up on time, and they're into one. I don't know what else to call it, right? Because of the world that I came from." So yeah, it was safe. So like I said, from watching that tournament last year, Alfie, that was amazing volleyball to me. And we're telling Tim this too. We're telling the exact same story that you said. We go to these juniors tournaments. I'm like, Tim, you just got to go to one. Like, you're going to be shocked. You're going to walk by and go, whoa, that kid just put that away. I'm like, yeah, she's 14. Like, yeah, they got the other game, right? I mean, it's true. And so I told, as I said, I was telling Bear, I'm like, you got to just go walk in, pay the whatever it is to walk in, just take a couple hours and stroll through there and watch some open courts, and you're going to be amazed at what these athletes are doing. It's crazy time right now. But like I said, but last year, and like Coley said, the timing of this all to invest in volleyball. But if last year's tournament is any indication what we're going to see moving forward, and with you at the Realm at UCLA getting them back in the thick of things, man, from coast to coast, man, this volleyball stuff in college for women is going to be outstanding.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Sully. That's exciting. You guys are pumping me up. I want to go watch video and like get to do something right now. Let's go. Call player up. I don't know, something.
We're just really working hard on and again growing this. And if you haven't done it, hit subscribe and help us grow Set the Pipe. But we're gonna have Tyler Hildebrand on here soon, as now just took over the St. Mary's job, and going to continue to try to bring women's coaches, men's coaches, players, and club coaches, just everything we can right on this. We're not stopping it anytime soon. We love doing this. And really just trying to, again, evangelize volleyball, talk to folks like yourself who really love the game and who want to help advance the game, as well as your career, which is what, I want to see story. All do. Great story. Come from a player, walk on. No one wants you to play. You go, you transfer. You're an All-American. You're playing overseas. You're playing on the national team. We haven't even talked about the journey of walking into opening ceremonies as a coach in the Olympics, being able to participate in that, and coaching at a bunch of great schools from the Big Ten to the WCC down in San Diego, to getting, I would think, a lot of people's dream job to be able to coach at UCLA and do all of those things. This is why we're doing this show, is to tell stories like yours, Alfee, because it's a wonderful story to tell. And you're the reason why volleyball is where it's at, because people like you, and I'm not just saying that, but it's like you've done everything hard, tough, easy, the hard way, the
Bet on yourself.
You bet on yourself, and you're where you're at, and you're trying to build back a program that's been fantastic forever, and it's still fantastic. It's never not been fantastic, but you're trying to get it back up into the upper echelon of getting into Final Fours and getting into championships. And thanks for coming on and helping us just grow this and talk about it, and just keep doing what you're doing, and I'll be cheering for you. You know that.
Thank you, Coley. And you guys, honestly, this has been what you guys are doing with this podcast and the message you're putting out there. It is rooted in such goodness. And I love this sport so much. And I love people that just love this sport. So thank you guys for what you're putting out there. And thank you for having me. This is an absolute blast, just chatting volleyball.
That's awesome. Right? Guys, Set the Pipe episode. This was Alfee Reft, the fourth head coach in UCLA volleyball's history. That goes back to the mid-'60s, by the way. So only the fourth coach to go through. Came from Santa Barbara in Hawaii as a player, defensive player of the year. We wish you well, buddy, and we appreciate you coming on Set the Pipe, Alfee.
Thank you.
And we'd love to have you back.
Oh my God, totally. You kidding me?
I'll be back.
We'll hunt him down.
Yes, we will definitely bring you back for sure. Absolutely. It's been so much fun. Thanks for joining us. Really can't thank you enough.